yeah. Welcome back to the All Purpose Pod for an All Purpose Life, wherever you are today and however you're listening to the Call Me Mr. You, the podcast. We thank you for making us a part of your morning, your day, and your week. We're your weekly mirror check before you go change the world, baby. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and of course, the Twitter machine. Thanks again for joining us. As you know, this is a family show. We talk family, we talk life, we talk sports. Today's no exception. For all you guys supporting us out there on the worldwide, we appreciate it very much. Thank you for support, for the comments, for the questions you're asking us to share on the show. Thanks again for your support. We really do appreciate it. This is not just some guy trying to do a podcast and be like everybody else is doing. There's a mission. If you're listening, you can you can already hear it by now, so you already know what's going on. So thanks again for supporting us. I want to chat with you a little bit about, like we always talk about, family, life, and sports. We always try to blend it because it's a big part of my life, big part of my background and upbringing. I want to share a little bit of my life with you guys, and hopefully it resonates. Uh, you know, I was just thinking about a particular situation that happened recently. I think that as a whole, we find ourselves ineffective. And I don't mean anybody in particular, just generally speaking. We find ourselves in areas of ineffectiveness because we're trying to do current things with outdated information. I'm going to say that again for those way in the back that's not listening, maybe. We find ourselves ineffective because we're doing current things or trying to do current things, trying to accomplish current goals with outdated information. What does that mean? I try to break it down as best as I can as we jump into the episode for today. But I had a buddy of mine, and I'm sure he doesn't mind me telling the story. I don't think he's even listening. But either way, we're good. But a buddy of mine, I think he did a repair for somebody probably about a decade ago, somewhere in the 8 to 10 year span. He helped somebody out with something. He definitely has knowledge in the area, but he helped somebody with that was in need, did a simple repair for him. From that repair, from that act of kindness that really helped somebody, word began to spread. People began to see him as the go-to guy to do this kind of repair. Was it his background? Not exactly, somewhat, but his reputation kind of preceded his capacity. That makes sense. So what happened was now everybody went to him as the go-to guy. And the guy's really humble, man, really nice guy, family man, loves the Lord, all the things that you can say, hey, this guy's a quality human being. But we were talking a little bit about it recently, and he was just like, I can't do what people are saying I can do. I helped out, sometimes in the past, but this is not what I do. This is not my specialty. This is not where I thrive. I don't have expansive knowledge about this area. I helped out in that area a time or two, and it helped somebody. It was a blessing to somebody, but it's not what I do. But now he has a reputation for doing this, and he told me recently, I don't even really do that. It's not really even my thing. I can try to help, but I don't really know how to do that. And to me, it was astounding for a couple of reasons. One, the biggest reason is that people are still touting this man, essentially putting responsibilities on his shoulders that he doesn't have the capacity to handle. Nobody checked in to find out whether it's still the same information. It's kind of like having a Rolodex. Anybody remember that? Having a Rolodex? Long time ago, right? Not that long ago, but long enough. Those numbers may not be in date anymore. You can't use those as professional and personal and business contacts. Those numbers may have changed. It makes sense, right? To check in and make sure that all the information is still up to date. It's like if you went to a doctor's office 6 months ago or a year ago. When you walk back in, you know what they're going to do? Ask you to update your information. It's tedious and annoying to you. I know it is to me. I said, don't you already have that stored already? But it's wise for them to update to make sure that it's still current information. Why can't we do that with people? With people that we network with, that we support, that we are friends with, that we're in business with. Why can't we do that? Why don't we have updated information? Why we hold on to stuff that happened years ago that's nothing to do with right now? It's not relevant, in any way, shape, or form. Why we holding on to old information, trying to build new situations, new scenarios, new levels of understanding off of old information? Why do we do that? I think that story was just indicative of what we do with people. We try to use the same services based on reputation, but it doesn't work out very well. And what ends up happening is that what we hear is either greater, bigger, or more erroneous than what's actually happening. My friend can do a lot of things. He's very talented. Don't get me wrong. What people were saying about him was way greater, on a higher level, a greater capacity than what he actually was able to do. That reputation that was made, for whatever the reason was, how it got started, that reputation it went beyond his capacity. So I want to ask a serious question before we get into our show. What do you have a reputation for that you don't deserve? What do you have a reputation for that you don't deserve? Reputation versus capacity. We're talking about this because I want to get into something that we talked about last week that we didn't get a chance to finish. If you guys were paying attention and you were actually locked into the show last week, you know that we have a frequent guest host with me, Football Talk with Bo. Where Bo jumped on and we were talking NBA a little bit. Our original plan was to discuss all three majors, and we kind of got caught up in the NBA GOAT conversation, and it kind of sparked some things that we're going to talk about again today. Excuse me. But I have some challenges with some things that we talked about last week. Now, one of the things that was a concern for me, or issue for me, was when we talk about the GOAT, and it does apply in different areas, different sports, but in the NBA specifically, there seems to be a challenge there. So I want to kind of jump into that a little bit. All right, so when we talk about the GOAT, usually, and this is just the circles that I run in, and I'm missing something, but the circles that I run in, when we talk about the NBA GOAT, we're usually talking about two people. Now, I'm concerned about that because I think the conversation should be a lot wider than that, but we talk about two people. We're going to go ahead and bring Bo in. Can you hear me, Bo?
I can. Hey, sorry about that little technical difficulties this morning.
Oh, that's all good, baby. Good to have you in here. But I don't know how much you heard, but we were trailing.
Internet just came back up.
Okay, we were trailing in from last week, and we had a plan to talk all three majors, and kind of went to the NBA realm and talking about the GOAT conversation, and it went and sparked something that went a little further than what we thought. But I want to try to get into a little bit more detail this time today. So kind of we're talking the basketball diaries, kind of part two. But when we talk about the NBA GOAT, specifically NBA, I know that it applies to the Major League Baseball and NFL as well. But when we talk about the NBA, for some reason, when we talk about the GOAT, it seems to be centered around two people, like a tug of war, like a wrestling match.
Yeah.
Michael Jordan versus LeBron James. It's like nobody else is in this match. It's just these two guys. It's like, and I question that. I question how we got there, where it's just those two. So what I did was, and I know how much you did on your side, we can go ahead and flesh it out today. But I did a little bit more research than that. I went kind of beyond the normal cursory discussion of James versus Jordan. I went a little further than that, looking at numbers, stats. I wanted to kind of see, okay, why these guys not in the conversation. I even had a poll question on Twitter that I dropped in there. Who should be in the GOAT conversation in any sport, but is not? Mm-hmm. That's our question for you guys today. We got a lot of questions, but that's our main question for you guys today. If you're listening to us, who should be in the GOAT conversation, regardless of sport? Who should be in the GOAT conversation, but is not? So don't say Michael Jordan and LeBron, because you know they are in the conversation all the time. Don't send us that, please. Who should be in the GOAT conversation, in your opinion, regardless of sport? I don't care if it's the four majors: Major League Baseball, the NFL, the NBA, and of course NHL. Who should be in the GOAT conversation and is not? We're not talking about tennis today. Don't send tennis. Not talking about golf. We're not talking about Tiger. Okay, let's just stay in the four for now. Okay, make it simple for us. But who should be in the GOAT conversation, but not? But it's not. Now, last week we were talking about MJ, LeBron in heavy doses. I want to get off of that just a little tiny bit and kind of flesh out how we got there, but who else should be included. So I think you already gonna be ready for that. But one name that popped up, you know who that was, right? We were talking about Tim Duncan.
Tim Duncan, absolutely.
We were there for a little while, and it took our show down an incredible rabbit hole that I love so much because we needed to be there. That's a rabbit hole we actually needed to be falling down into because we needed it. So, in the research I was trying to find out, just to kind of find out, what we're looking at and how people decide who's GOAT and who's not. I saw a lot of different things. I found one. I can't cite the different websites. Sorry about that, but a couple of names came up. Will Chamberlain's name came up, right?
Of course.
Most times in his situation, it's usually in his situation, most times it's because of having the best scoring season. I think he had a 50-game average for every season that he played, and then he had a 100-point game that hasn't been eclipsed in ever.
And it never will.
No doubt. And after that, it was just having the most rebounds in season and in the playoffs. That's the claim to fame, right? That's why his name, if it does come up, it comes up because of those reasons. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Excuse me. I think he had the most MVP votes, I think it was, most all-star votes, and of course the most regular season wins as well. I think that's where his name comes up. I don't know if it's for any other reason besides those. I'm just highlighting what I found. You got something else? Let me know. But Magic Johnson.
That's accurate.
Yeah, assists and triple doubles. That's his. Beside the championships with the Lakers, those are the areas where he's done what nobody else has done. Assists and triple doubles is the main thing. Bill Russell, 11 titles, man. I mean, ain't nobody hit that year, right? Did I miss it? Did it happen and I missed it? Okay. So,
no, not even close. Not even if we're adding people together.
11 titles, finals appearances, and the most rebounds again. So that's where his legacy lies, I guess you could say. But 11 titles, man, it's really hard to get past 11 titles, man. I don't know how we ignore this, but we get to a point with this. Kobe Bryant.
So why that one gets ignored a little bit is he wasn't the best player on his team half the time. But he did win 11 rings, which you can't dispute. I mean, 11 rings is no joke. But, it's not like he went 11, finals MVP type games or type series. So I think that's why he gets pushed aside a little bit, despite the, amazing amount of titles.
Okay. His name is in the conversation for some reason, besides.
Well, it's because he has 11 titles.
Maybe the why in your mind? Okay. Because he had guys on his team. I don't hear their names all the time. So I'm like, was it something else?
No, so that's the thing, is he was around a long time. He had other, cogs in the wheel but it was different players all the time. He just, it was a dominant team, and he was a dominant player. Don't misunderstand me. It just, it wasn't like a Jordan or a Bird or, Magic Johnson, something like that, where he was the guy on the team all the time.
The focal point. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Couple more left. Well, a few more left. Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
You hear his name from time to time. All team MVPs, first team defense, most game winning shots, most buzzer beaters, I guess, if you want to look at that as considered the GOAT, okay. But that's kind of where it goes now. I know some people love Kobe. Don't send me hate mail. I'm just trying to just piece this all together to find out why these people are in or should be in the GOAT conversation. I think that mentioned Hakeem Olajuwon. Okay. His claim to fame most times was, I think, the most blocks that anybody ever had. I don't think it's a bad thing. If you had it on your team, a guy on your team that does that, your team's going to be in good shape. That means your offense will have the ball more than not. So that's good. Is it GOAT worthy? I don't know. I'm just asking a question here. All right, last one I had that I found was Shaq, most field goal percentage. You laugh at that, you're like, oh, he don't hit no free throws, but his field goal percentage is pretty high, and I think it's the most. I'm not sure if it's most ever, but I think it's pretty.
I mean, of course, his percentage was high. Most of his shots were dunks. I mean, I feel like from that range, you should pretty much hit most of those.
Cat's not listening, bro. Okay, just to be clear, Bo said that, not Mr. U. Just so we got that part straight.
Oh, don't get me wrong. He should be in the conversation. He's probably one of the most dominant players ever.
Nice save, Bo, but I agree with you. Now, I don't know if I missed anybody. I just had to grab all the names that I could find that I thought at least have an argument to be made for them. But we're asking the question out in the Twitter sphere, I believe on Facebook as well too. But who should be in the GOAT conversation, but is not. Love to hear your thoughts on that on our social media platforms. Hit us up, let us know. But so let's go ahead and go to the MJ and LBJ so we can go ahead and get it out of the way so nobody won't have to ask us about that part. All right. So with LeBron James, I think he had the most all NBA votes. I don't know how much weight that holds for you, but all NBA votes. Supposedly points scored. He has the most in those areas as well. He was playing longer than NBA, so that makes sense. Playoff wins, most buzzer beaters. So him and Kobe can't have the most buzzer beaters, I think.
So I think LeBron does now, and Kobe used to. I mean, I think where Kobe comes up short in this conversation is he has one less ring than Jordan, and he basically perfectly emulated Jordan's style of play. So it takes some of the shine off of what he did because so many people watched Jordan that watched Kobe. So they're like, it's kind of Jordan light, right? It like we've seen this Jordan 2.0 kind of thing. No. So what I'm saying is that's where some people kind of lose him in the GOAT debate, and they shouldn't, because he was able to do some things that Jordan wasn't able to do. Like he was a better 3-point shooter. There were things that Kobe did that were better than what Jordan was able to do, but he gets lost in this debate solely because most people are like, oh yeah, he just, basically emulates exactly what Jordan did. And so, yeah, I mean, I feel like he gets more shade for that than he should. I look at it as he was basically copying who was the best ever up to that point. So why wouldn't you do that?
Okay. That Jordan light comment was vicious, man.
Well, no, but I mean, when you hear that, what's that?
Get some more coffee, Bo. Get some more coffee.
I'm telling you, that's why he fades.
Hold on, Bo. Drink some more coffee right now. Take a sip. Take some more coffee. Cause that Jordan, take some right now. Cause that Jordan light, that was vicious, man.
No,
I never thought about that before. I never heard that before. Are people saying that? They use Jordan light.
That is a real thing. That is a real thing. That's actually where he gets a little bit slighted for all the accomplishments he has had.
I didn't know that. That's wow. That's amazing.
Yeah.
But with LeBron, beside that, points in all-star games. I mean, this is what people are saying. This is not me. I would never use this as a reason to say, you know what, I'm the GOAT because I have more points than anybody else in the all-star. I'm not doing that. I'm not sure he's doing it either, but somebody is saying that this is one of the reasons why he's considered the GOAT. I mean, this is an all-star game. I mean, what do you think is going to happen? Come on. So I mean, that's a horrible metric to use for somebody to be the GOAT. And the last one might be even worse: Player of the Week and Player of the Month. That's what they have it. I'm like,
wow,
this is why we're doing that. If people say points scored, okay, maybe we got somewhere to work with there, but.
Player of the Week, we're just going to throw like Jeremy Lin or something in there too, or what do we do?
I don't know how we can do this. I'm not even sure about the buzzer beater part either. I got a question about that one too. But
so that's
third in the list. I mean, because
so that one's kind of a double-edged sword, right? So you want your guy to want the ball in his hand, last second, jack it up, get it through, right?
Oh, yeah.
But on the other hand, if you keep having to put up game winners or like fourth quarter drives, they do that for football, right? I think both of those are dumb because that just means you don't play defense very well.
That's right. That's where my head is at. That's what I'm thinking. But I'm like, okay, so For me, I'm thinking, okay, so points scored and playoff wins. I think unless you guys hear a different metric that makes LeBron the a perennial GOAT conversation leader, those are the two areas, in my opinion: points scored and playoff wins. I don't know that other stuff. We ain't using none of that stuff. Sorry.
Yep.
Now, with MJ, it's a little bit different. I'm not trying to frame it. I'm just telling you what people are saying makes
6 for
them
6.
GOAT. Don't get me wrong. Okay, it's not no bias involved in this one. I'm just telling you what they're saying. Finals MVP.
Yep.
Scoring average. Scoring titles. All defense.
Yep.
Playoff minutes. And playoff points scored. Now, just on the surface, that's different than what I just read about LeBron, right?
For sure.
I'm not making it up. This is just what people are saying about the whole GOAT conversation. That's a different situation to me, especially the finals MVP part. How many times did that happen? I think it's kind of important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Scoring average over the amount of years that he was playing. I think that makes a difference. Because to be fair, they didn't play the same amount of years. I don't have that jotted down, but off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, so
he was cut a little bit short in comparison to where LeBron's is now.
So I'm a Jordan fan, right? So in my mind, Jordan is the GOAT for me. But there are some things that are notably different with LeBron than there was with Jordan. So I mean, Jordan still played for 15 years, right? And yeah, they went 6 for 6. They had 6 incredible years, but he had a lot of first round exits, right? Early in his career.
Fair enough.
And I'm not sure why that gets viewed differently than the finals losses for LeBron, because he went to 8 finals in a row with 3 different teams. And then, it missed a year and then went back again, went to 9 total, won 4 rings. Right. So I feel like there's a level of dominance that gets overlooked because they lost 5 finals. But I mean, he spent more time in the NBA finals than a lot of people's careers last in the NBA.
Yeah.
I mean, it's funny that he gets discounted a little bit for losing in the finals. When you look at, Jordan until really Pippen showed up, they never got out of the first round. I mean, if I remember right, I don't know that they ever even won a series. So, which is crazy when you think about it. There's definitely arguments that can go either way. Again, I grew up watching Jordan, so there's a little bias there for me anyway. But and some of LeBron's numbers are just a testament to the fact that he's been in the league forever at this point.
Years now.
Right. So,
I mean, let's do a little math here. I'm good at math. 82 games times 5.
Well, he's never played that many though.
Oh, I know that. I know that part. I'm just saying. We're talking about 410 games more than Jordan. I mean,
oh yeah,
point score should be something that you accomplish. If you don't,
for sure,
5 more years.
Yeah,
no matter how many games you played that year, and add in load management, you still should have more points scored than somebody who left 5 years ago.
Without a doubt. I did hear one that cracked me up. They were trying to make the case for LeBron, and they were like, "Oh yeah, he has more points scored in a finals game 7 than anybody." And it's like, well, yeah, of course, because those Jordan Bulls never went to game 7. So had he made a free throw, that would be true.
Oh goodness. I mean, yes. So back to our question. So who should be in the GOAT conversation but not? Mm-hmm. LeBron and MJ seem to always be there.
Of course.
Guys, if you guys listening to us out there in Twitter land, on YouTube, who should be in the GOAT conversation but not? Not MJ, not LeBron. They're already there. we can argue and go back and forth about why, but I want to move on a little bit into who should potentially be there. That's not. One name I left off of the list on purpose. I want to talk about him a little bit. Is the MVP from last week's episode of the podcast, Tim Duncan.
Yep.
Right. Bo and I were looking at his history offline last week. I mean, he's known for having the most wins with the same team and the most seasons with winning records. This is a team sport, so you understand that those things are definitely based on team. He was surrounded by some incredible talent. I think if I remember correctly, David Robinson was there a number of years with Tim, working side by side. Robinson at the center position and Duncan at power forward at the 4, I think it was. Manu Ginobili, the sharpshooter. You know, I think Kawhi Leonard had some time there too, but I'm not quite sure how many years that was we were together. But they, I mean, I'm leaving names out, forgive me, but you know, there were some studs out there, and they had an incredible team. And Pop was running a tight ship. So having the most seasons with winning records, you know, you got to give credit to the other guys as well, especially the coaching staff, but and the guys that played with Duncan. But I mean, he had 4 rings. I don't ever hear his name.
He's got 5.
It's 5 rings.
He's got 5.
I don't want to cut him short. Okay, my bad. So
yeah, no, he's got 5 rings. Okay. You know, some of it is they didn't win any of them consecutively, right? They basically won every other year. They kind of did what was the Giants, I think, did for.
No.
So the San Francisco Giants baseball, right? So they basically kind of went to the series every other year. So Tim Duncan. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's they kind of went every other year. So they get a little bit you know, they get discounted more than they should because they're like, oh, they weren't able to like form a dynasty. I figure if you've won 5 and it's over the course of a decade anyway, that's still a pretty dynastic run in my mind.
I mean, we're still on NBA. Don't get me. I'm not leaving. I'm not going to the rabbit hole. But I think about the Bills. The Bills kind of something you said triggered the Bills in my mind. I'm like, okay, they went to the Super Bowl 4 times.
Yeah.
And didn't win. It's like, okay, so now I remember back in my so-called heyday, back in the 80s and 90s, they were getting vilified out there. Let's just be real about it. They were getting killed. Like they were the worst thing ever. I'm like, yo, they went to the Super Bowl 4 times. I know that's not and they were just living right now. The America we live in now, like, oh my God, you participated, so it's all good. I'm like, no, but they went there 4 times. They essentially beat everybody to the Super Bowl to get there. And they just couldn't win the big game, but it happened 4 times. You gotta give some props for the fact that they went there 4 times at the top of their game, and they didn't pull it out, but they were in the Super Bowl. It's not easy to get there. And football players kind of stuff.
And their path to those Super Bowls, like some of those games, they were destroying other teams. Like they were extraordinarily good.
Yes. Bruce Smith was his name, man. Before we were talking about Reggie, and you name whoever you wanted else that you could name at the edge position or the D line position that was known for rushing the passer. Bruce Smith's name was synonymous with dominance.
Oh yeah,
for a long time.
Oh yeah,
it's like, I mean, Jim Kelly. I mean, if he won one of those, I mean, it'd have been a dramatic change in Buffalo in the way they're being seen.
Well, and it would have been a dramatic change in the greatest quarterback debate in the NFL had he won even just one of those, because
no doubt, I agree with
again, they were absolutely destroying teams to get to those Super Bowls. They were just epic meltdowns in the big game. And I mean, had any of those gone correctly for Buffalo, I think Kelly is on a lot of those lists with the best quarterbacks that he's currently not, because he lost 4 games. 4 games.
I haven't gone into it. Maybe we can do that, at a future time. But
for sure,
you gotta be numbers that bear that kind of stuff out too. I I mean, despite the 4 games you're talking about right now, numbers wise, he had to have eclipsed some,
Oh yeah,
at least be in the top 5. No, I mean, maybe we could try to find that out, but he got to be
I
somewhere.
mean, he's probably not. He's probably not anymore because of the way the game changed. But at the time, absolutely.
He was throwing a lot, man. I mean, Thurman Thomas was. I mean, they utilized Thurman Thomas in the run game, but he was throwing. So I mean,
Oh yeah.
at least some passing records got to be. We'll check that out. Got a couple of comments coming through. The Spurs are definitely a dynasty.
Oh yeah.
Even when they didn't win, they were in the mix. Facts. Sir. Thank you for sending that. That's absolutely a fact. I mean, they were definitely a dynasty, and I'm amazed that names like Duncan aren't included more in the conversation. I mean, if see, this is where I want to get into the little hinkies that we were talking about last week. How do we decide that? How do we decide who's actually the GOAT and who's not? Because they got to be some kind of must-have to be considered the GOAT, right? They got to be something. They got to be some kind of measuring stick. If we can move the target all around, it's not good. I mean, it's gonna be really hard to shoot if the target's being moved around constantly, right? So it's a must-have to be considered the GOAT. If you guys got thoughts on that, drop them in our comments, because they got to be at least 1 or 2 things that make somebody the greatest of all time. I don't care if it's hockey, baseball, basketball, or football. It doesn't matter. There got to be some kind of measure that says, you know what, this is the reason why if you hit this target, if you reach this level, this makes you the GOAT. But for some reason, it feels to me like this is just me now. With all I just read about Wilt, Magic, Kareem, Kobe, Hakeem, Olajuwon, all goes on and on. You see, like everything keeps moving.
Yeah. Well, I mean, some of that is the issue with they play different.
That's not. Go ahead.
Oh no, I think some of that is because once you're crossing eras and you're crossing, there were true positions, so some of them scored more than others. Some were more facilitators than scorers. When you have guys like Magic, who was one of the best facilitators ever, one of the best passers, assists, whatever, right? So, I mean, is he going to have the scoring that a Jordan or a LeBron that, are out there winning scoring titles? No. So, I mean, could you have Magic in one of those conversations? For sure. But yeah, I think that's why there's not a specific thing that says, oh, you're that guy because you hit this level of achievement. Because they played different eras and different positions, some of those numbers would just inherently be harder to hit.
Okay. I hear you. I hear what you're saying. But there has to be, we can't do this, man. There has to be a metric. There has to be something. And the reason why I'm saying that, especially in most recent current events with Tom Brady. Not going down the NFL rabbit hole. I'm just making a point here. You guys can chime in if you like to. There was a big thing about whether he was the GOAT or Joe Montana was the GOAT.
Yeah.
And somehow, when it suited people's narratives, they found the answer to my question. They found a way to make it like, okay, this is the reason why TB12 is the GOAT and not Joe Montana.
Sure.
So,
but you can find stats. You can find stats in anything to build your case. Like you can look for obscure things that you're like, oh, he did this better, and this helps make my argument, even though there could be no like factual thing behind it. Because then you get to lean back on but numbers don't lie. And it's like, okay, well, he was good at this one thing, whatever. Good on you for finding a stat, right?
Okay. In this case, what seemed like what transpired was they made it all about the amount of championships.
Sure.
Okay. So I didn't hear nothing about passing the record. I didn't hear any of that stuff. All I heard about was the amount of championships. This is the reason why TB12 is the GOAT and not Joe Montana, because of the amount of championships. So now we got a reason to call somebody the GOAT. I mean, it doesn't seem to apply in every area. And I'm having a problem with that part. Because
that's actually where Jordan usually, where most people that are voting for Jordan to be, the GOAT is 6 for 6. He went to 6 finals, 6 championships, 6 finals MVPs. Bam, done. Right? Like that's where most people's argument kind of stops, because beyond that, LeBron owns all the stats because he's been in the league since, it feels like Jordan quit. So
But the difference, though, I'm with you, but the difference is that in part of what you said, some of that was based on his individual performance,
sure.
not just the team part. If
Yeah.
he won 6 championships, but he wasn't the MVP, would you feel the same way about it? I don't think a lot of people would.
Probably not.
People might see it a little bit, but because you knew he was the most valuable player on the team, and you knew it because wasn't nobody able to stop him.
Yeah.
That and he was making highlight reels and everything he was doing out there on people. So,
for sure.
So that right there says a little bit different. With TB12, I don't know if that's the same thing. I think this conversation is going to go on a while because the metrics are not the same.
Yeah.
If the Bills won those 4 championships, would Jim Kelly be the GOAT because he was the quarterback of that? I mean, it doesn't always.
It's possible. It's possible because he would have done something, basically that Joe Montana did. But they had more dominant runs through the league up to get there.
Okay. Good point on our comments. Thanks for the shout out there. Duncan gets left out because of his personality, but he's probably the best point forward of all time.
For sure.
He actually read my mind. He and I both think alike. But I was thinking about them like, okay, so when we talk about individual performances, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I say, okay, let's use Tim Duncan as an example, since we're talking about him right now.
Yep.
Won 5 championships, right?
Yep.
Now, I don't know what makes him the GOAT just from the fact that he had 5 championships, because somebody else on that team probably did too. Whether he did or not, but his play power forward. Hold on one second. His play power forward, that's a big deal because to me, that's okay. Somebody can say, you know what? What's LeBron Jordan's position? Sometimes I don't even know sometimes. Is he a small forward? What is he? Shooting guard? I don't even know what he is. To be honest. Not being funny, I honestly do not know what position he plays. It seems like it changes a lot. With Jordan, I knew what position he played, right?
Yep.
If he was the best of that position of all times, that plays a different part than what we've been talking about all this time today.
Yeah.
If Duncan is the best power forward, that has to take his name to a different place in the conversation. If Herb is right, and he's probably the best power forward of all time, which is probably a really strong argument.
Oh, for sure.
That takes his conversation, his name in the GOAT conversation to a whole different place. If Jordan, I think he was a 2, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. Was Jordan the best shooting guard of all time?
Yeah.
If he was, that plays a part. That adds to the strength of his name being in the conversation. I don't know what LeBron is. I don't even know what position he plays, but is he the best at his position? Is LeBron the best at whatever position he plays right now?
Yeah, he's the best 6th man ever, right? Since you don't know what position he plays.
Now look, come on. I'm asking a serious question here.
That'll be some funny stuff in the comment section, I'm sure.
Either here or on Twitter, guaranteed.
Right?
Guaranteed.
Yeah, no, I mean, so that is the thing about the NBA at this point anyway, right? Is positions just aren't quite the same as they were. Like everybody had their position and they kind of filled that role. And now positions kind of blend together because you got guys that were traditionally going to be centers that are, back jacking up threes. Whereas before they used to be, they were down under the hoop in the paint, whatever. And, so those positions have really kind of changed with the way the NBA is today.
Okay. I mean, NBA, that's just one example. I mean, we got Major League Baseball, NFL, that kind of stuff. But I guess I'm wondering also, can you be the GOAT with only team wins and titles and not any individual stats?
No.
I don't know how you can do that. So now everything I named earlier, everything I read off to you from all those different names, now we got a different conversation now. And I think part of that on my part was on purpose. Because now we got to think about things differently now. Now we have to now.
Well,
Bill Russell, like you said, the Bill Russell thing, 11 titles, but that's a team metric. It's not, it may not be because of, maybe it is because of Bill Russell. I don't know, but
Well, and I think that's actually where Tim Duncan gets hurt a little bit, is he wasn't the finals MVP in all those championship runs.
Okay.
So like their final one, Kawhi Leonard won the MVP, as I recall.
Okay.
So they're
okay.
What's that?
Don't forget something here that I don't want to get lost, because
I
need to bring it back.
Go ahead.
What you just said is that Tim Duncan gets hurt a little bit because he wasn't the MVP.
Yep.
Okay. What we've been talking about in the NBA was about the amount of championships, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Duncan has to be in the conversation if that's the metric.
Sure.
The amount of championships, he has 5. Not a lot of folks can say that. So if that's the case, he should be in the conversation. Then if it's about championships, if it's not about championships, then that's a whole new combo we need to be having them. If it's not about that, it's about individual stats. Then where does he rank? Then where does LBJ rank? Then where does Bill Russell rank? Yep. We got to look at this thing differently, because I mean, I don't know how it is on your Twitter page, but on mine, people say crazy stuff. They don't back it up. They don't have no facts to go with. They even got a video. They just shout crazy stuff and hope you get mad enough to click on their page and retweet it.
Pretty much. This
GOAT convo has to be about something more than just team wins, because it's not working. The finals MVP, I can get with that, because now the individual accomplishments come through. You can get somebody a bust in the Hall of Fame. You need to be about individual accomplishment. It can't just be about, I was on a good team. I was a part of a good team. You got guys on the bench that got rings.
Well, that's the thing, is I think what a finals MVP shows is you were the best player on a good team, right? So not only were you able to achieve team success, which, I think a lot of players kind of get bounced out of this conversation because they didn't have team success, but then you were also the best player on that team. Because, I mean, if you look at Charles Barkley, for example, would he be viewed higher if he had won some rings down there? Yeah, absolutely.
Who?
Charles Barkley.
Okay.
I mean, he was a dominant player. Yeah. I think he even won an MVP. But I think if he would have won, 2 or 3 rings down there with the Suns, is he viewed differently in the history of the sport? Absolutely. I mean, he's still one of the more dominant guys, and he gets glossed over because they never won a ring.
Ain't that the truth? That's the truth. And I mean, I think the GOAT combo, you have to, and this is just,
of course,
handle. I mean, it may change what people how they look at me, because I've been saying MJ the entire time, and I haven't budged off of that.
Yep.
All I'm asking for is that we have more of a broader conversation about it. It's all I'm really asking for while we're doing the episode today. I'm trying to be a man of the people. I'm trying to help the people. The people got some crazy thoughts. I'm trying to help them out today. So to me, I'm like, okay, if you're going to talk about GOAT all the time, you can't automatically put LeBron in there because it's the only guy you've seen. That's not a good.
So there's that.
Say again?
There is definitely some of that, right? Because there's recency bias for sure.
Ain't that the truth?
I think it was interesting when the Last Dance came out, right? The Jordan documentary there.
Figured that would come at some point in time.
Yeah, well, and I mean, what it did was it gave, guys that are watching today that have been watching LeBron their whole life that never saw Jordan, and they see the same, 5 clips on YouTube, but that's all they saw. So for that documentary to come out and they got to see some of what it is he actually did, you definitely hear a little bit different viewpoint from some of those, younger fans that are like, oh no, like Jordan really was that guy.
Yeah. Got a comment jumping in from the Herbert podcast. It's up to judge just based on stats, because every sport has changed rules to make scoring easier. Well, exactly. In the NBA, I know that's definitely a factor in the NBA. I mean, these guys, blow on them and they fall down. Look at the ref. A lot of opportunity to the free throw line more now than ever, and doing it the easy way. In my opinion, our way is you driving the lane.
Yeah, well, and it's funny because they made scoring so much easier. Now, when you look at the scores of those games, it used to be what the All-Star game was, right? Where nobody played defense and now they don't. And, so the scores were 128 to 125, but your normal game was like 80s, 90s, right? Because defense was no joke. And you had to earn all of those points. Whereas now, I mean, you can kind of free float around the lane. Nobody's allowed to touch you. And if you jump and then fade into a guy, somehow you also get the foul. Like it's so weird the way that the NBA is called penalty wise.
The word is laughable. Well, that's the word you're looking for, laughable.
Yes. Yeah. It's becoming soccer. I think that's my biggest issue is you look at someone wrong and they fall down and roll around on the floor. And, I'd say soccer has that locked up. We don't need to create that in other sports.
Yeah, another great comment about Barkley, but he was an 11-time NBA All-Star for the most part. I think, if I'm mistaken, he was the only player out of 4 players. Now, this is, remember last week we were talking about the 90s and all these guys? I mean, we named so many people that were just epic in the NBA hierarchy, so to speak. Barkley's the only guy that recorded more than 20,000 points. One out of 4 players just record more than 20,000 points. I think he had 23, a little under 24,000. Over 10,000 rebounds, over 4,000 assists. I think the numbers exactly 23,757 points, 12,546 rebounds, and 4,215 assists. This is somebody who we don't even talk about in that regard. So, but that's individual. You want to talk about the Sixers and the Suns, and them not okay. You can do that, but this is individual stats. So I love what the Herman Raj podcast was talking about. It's hard to do that now because the rules have changed a little bit. But look at the numbers, though. Look at the numbers that he put on. I mean, if one of only 4 players sounds like it's kind of exclusive. Like not many folks have done this.
Exactly.
It's like we don't even talk about his name in the convo. I mean,
and that's
a lot to get there, and I know that. I know where we're going. If we follow down this path that we're on right now, we're gonna have to drill down a lot to get to the point of number checking it, number crunching and stuff. So it's easier to go with titles. I get what's happening around us, but it's not the most feasible answer, though. We can't use titles as the reason why somebody is considered the GOAT.
Well, I don't think it's the reason why, but it's a main contributor, and that's true in all sports, right? Because would you be talking about Brady as the GOAT if he didn't have 7 rings? Probably not, just because he wasn't a flashy player. Yeah, he got the job done, but there was nothing spectacular about it. Like when you watched Brady, like if you had Brady or Marino or Elway or these guys that are way more dynamic throwers of the ball, and you were just watching based on that, Brady would never be your guy, right? You'd be watching Marino and Elway and all of these guys that are Favre, right? They could just throw the rock forever and are entertaining to watch and whatever. And then you look at Brady and he's your neighbor's dad that you're playing football with. Like he is incredibly accurate, but he is not, that exciting. He's not that exciting player to watch.
They're going to get you on Twitter, man. You know that, right?
Oh, I know.
You saying crazy stuff today. They're going to get you, man.
Hey, tell me where the lie is, though.
You get back there. I got you. I'm just saying. You drink some more coffee, bro. That's all I can say.
No, see, that's the problem when you start out with a bunch of technical problems. You're just scrambling around like, oh, I'm going to be late to the show. What is happening right now?
No, you ain't late. You were right on time. It was all good, man.
No, it was funny. I was on I was on a show on I think it was Friday, and my internet died right in the middle of the show.
Crazy.
And so I was scrambling around. I was able to just be able to get it up on my phone, so I had to finish it on my phone. It was the most ridiculous show. And so when I click in and there's no internet, nothing's working, I'm just like, oh man, this is not going to go well.
We're in the world of live podcasting. Isn't it glorious?
Oh, you know it. You know it. I was just like, oh, this is definitely a Monday morning. All right.
We got a case of the Mondays, but it's just different for us.
Right.
When the people with their bosses, we got a different Mondays like that we're dealing with. Man, there was so much that we're supposed to be talking about today. We were talking about Ja Morant and suspension. We were talking about NBA and NFL free agency.
Yep.
We didn't get to any of that stuff.
Nope. Got to none of it. But that's all right. That's all right. It just means we got stuff for next week. We
can work with it. We can work with it, man. But yeah. But I guess, just to kind of cap it off, and I want to throw another fun game at you to close the show out today. Hope you enjoyed this one like you did last week.
Yeah.
I was really entertaining. If you guys didn't hear the show from last week and the game we played at the end, check it out. It was really, really good.
Yep.
Okay, so I guess my last stand on this is that if we're going to be talking about the GOAT in any sport, I don't care what the sport is. I mean, we had discussions last week, especially on my timeline, my Twitter timeline, about the GOAT in hockey and tennis and all the things we talked about in our game last week. And the answers were just like ranging, but most of the answers that were the most popular ones, which really shocked me in Major League Baseball specifically, I got names like Babe Ruth as and in hockey, I got most Gretzky was the most I got in hockey. I forgot what it was, but in tennis, people are really getting uptight about this tennis thing. I mean, Paul and Federer's name was in there, but they were talking about. I mean, I said that Novak Djokovic was the one I thought was the GOAT in tennis, and the reason why I said it was because of his points. Now that's not a team sport now. Nobody's helping him hold a racket. This is him doing this, right? So you can give him more props for doing it because he had the most points. I think he still had the most points in tennis, excluding Serena, of course.
Yeah. So
you can say he's the GOAT. I can say it with confidence because he has the numbers that he individually back. I can't say that about. I mean, I know quarterback had to throw the ball to a wide receiver. I get that part. I get it, but it's harder for me to do that because I know that they throw the ball, but it's not all that goes on in the winning of a game. Sometimes a punt return can win a Super Bowl for somebody. A punt return for a pick six or pick six for a touchdown. So I mean, so it's different with individual sports. But all I really want to say was, in my own clunky way, was that the team aspect of it, the team stats, most regular season wins. You can't attribute that to one person unless you got a dynamic of a Finals MVP or most valuable player or scoring average per game, like with Will. I mean, if he scored 50 games on average, 50 points on average, that means he carried this team to a certain point.
Yes.
So you can give more of an argument for stuff like that. But so I don't know where the GOAT combo is going. We may never discuss it again on this show. I have no idea, but I just don't know. I don't know how we can get past the individual part. We have to include that. So I'm going to change anything for you guys when it comes to MJ and LeBron. Did that change your mind? Did that reinforce what you already believed? I'm not sure what this conversation did to help you.
I'm positive it didn't. I mean, people are so locked in on who their guy is that I don't know that any kind of facts would change it anyway.
No, did the best that we could with that one, but we had a whole bunch of plans. I guess the next time we come together, man, we can talk more NFL free agency. That could be a short conversation. I had some. We had a whole string of some NBA stuff. We didn't even touch that stuff.
Oh yeah.
Wow, we had stuff about the latest Chris Paul trade and
now you got
Davis and whether he's the dude or not.
You can't see it. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I had a ton of stuff for today.
Oh my goodness! But guess what, brother? We are gonna go ahead and rack up for that kind of stuff. But you got comments coming in. Thank you guys for sending some more stuff. MJ will always be the guy because that's who I grew up with. Oh no, you're not. All you do is not. You're not helping. Herb, you're not helping right now. Just want you to know you're not helping us right now at all by saying that.
No, but that's my point, though.
It's about who you grew up with. Now it's about the recency bias. See, you're not helping Herb. We need the kind of context that you bring to the table on your show. We need it over here now. Come on, man. You restart that argument. We can't use that stuff, man. Come on, Herb. You better than that, man. Just kidding, man. Appreciate it, brother. So we talking about the Spurs and their number one pick. We had a whole bunch to talk about.
Yep.
We're gonna have to table that one for another time. But I want to jump into this game, right? So
yep.
Check it out. Get ready. Got more coffee in your cup? Any more left?
What's that?
Any more coffee in your cup left?
No, I rolled right through that.
All right. Okay, well, here's what it is. I want you to have a little bit more help. look at Herb. He said,
"Not better than that."
You got.
I'm with him though. You know, Jordan is who I grew up with, and you know, he's my guy also in that debate. So I mean,
for me, it's not a debate, but I mean, it just.
Yep.
I want us to be more well-rounded in our discussion points, rather than just say, you know what? Oh, the one I saw is the best one. No.
Well, I mean, so we did have the benefit of watching both, right? Yeah. So at least you get to have an informed decision somewhat. But you know,
us, not them.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. You got to watch both eras. So I mean, you know, yeah, I don't know. I feel like you have a better position to make, you know, that judgment call. The only thing that is different is you were watching Jordan at an era where you were falling in love with the sport. And so that holds a different viewpoint in your mind than something new.
I shared that last week. The 90s are close to my heart.
Yep.
I'm willing to fight anybody about what's the best era in the NBA. I'm willing to fight for it. All of my life, I'm not going to change my mind. The 90s were the best, and if you don't think so, bring your facts. You can find me on Twitter at they call me MRYU. Don't find me.
Yep.
I'm gonna say that every time, all the time, because I can't find anything better. I haven't seen it yet. I'm still waiting. I'll wait. But here's our game for today, man. Before we do that, shout out to my guys, Herb and Raj. The Herb and Raj podcast is absolutely incredible. All right. These guys are on every Monday at 8 p.m. EST. Check out their show, Herb and Raj podcast. Check it out. If you don't check it out, we're not friends anymore, okay? So here's our game. It's called NBA, NFL, or both. All right? NBA, NFL, or both. I'm going to give you 9 categories. You got to tell me if it's the NBA, the NFL, or both. And as you probably can tell by Bo's face, guys, he has no idea what's coming.
I don't.
It's more fun that way. All right. So the game is NBA, NFL, or both. If you guys want to jump into the comments, be quick with the fingers. We're going fast. All right. Number 1, most fun to watch. NBA, NFL, or both.
Oh, NFL for me. Yeah.
Copy that. Number 2, the most passionate fans. NBA, NFL, or both?
NFL.
All right. Most reasonable price for a ticket. NBA, NFL, or both?
Oh, NBA.
How much are they nowadays in comparison?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't know in the Northwest. They stole our team, but
oh boy.
But a Seahawk ticket right now is like $250 a ticket for the cheap ones. So the last time I went to an NBA game, you could still get a ticket for, $30 or something.
Wow. Okay. Most recognizable names. NBA, NFL, or both?
Both, because it depends on which sport you watch. So if you're a big NBA fan, then you're going to know more, NBA players. If you're a big NFL fan, you're going to know more NFL players.
We're talking like national exposure. It could be commercials, ads. That's what I meant by that one.
Well, I mean, it's still kind of true, right? Because in the NBA, you're only going to have, 4 or 5 guys that have true national coverage as far as general marketing, rather than just regional. And the NFL is going to be the same way with, guys like, Rodgers and Brady and, stuff like that get national deals just because they're so well known. So I think that one probably falls under both.
Copy that. Okay. Best franchise cities. We had to talk about that about a few weeks ago, and we were Probably going to talk about it again at some point in time, but the best franchise cities, NBA, NFL, or both.
I mean, I guess the NFL, since the NBA keeps moving their teams around. So yeah, I guess I'll go NFL.
Copy that. Most viewership in the regular season is actually a right answer.
Most viewership in the regular season, NFL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Higher player salary. Right answer for this one.
The highest player salary?
Yes, sir.
Well, I mean, if we're talking guaranteed contract, I guess that'd be the NBA.
Okay. More popular overseas.
I missed that. What was that?
More popular overseas, NBA, NFL, or both?
Probably the NBA.
Okay. Best team logo.
Best team logo?
Yeah.
I'd go with the NFL. I'd go with the NFL.
All right.
Having the best team logos.
If we get answers coming in, everybody's saying NFL for almost every answer that we had. All right, awesome. Okay, I love this, man. So, well, we had a lot of fun talking about the NBA and the GOAT conversation, and we left a whole bunch of stuff on the table. We'll come back and get it next time. But thank you guys for listening, wherever you are today, and however you're hearing. They call me Mr. U, the podcast. Thank you again so much for making us a part of your morning, your day, and your week. We're your weekly mirror check before you change the world. You can find Football Talk with Bo on Twitter. You see his tag right there. Hopefully you see it. Can you see it? Okay.
No, my tag didn't show up today.
It didn't show up?
No, it's been all kinds of technical problems.
Tell them how to find you. They're listening right now.
So you can find me on Twitter at Football Talk with Bo, or you can find my channel here on YouTube at Football-Talk.
Let's do it. Don't forget about the Herb and Raj podcast every Monday, 8 p.m. EST. Be there or be square. Thanks for joining us, guys. Have a great week. Go change the world. We'll talk soon. Coach out.
Have a good one, guys.